So trust, there's a couple places that we can talk about trust. I want to first talk about it at the consumption side. So this is a very oversimplified process for reporting. You've got your data requests and requirements gathering, some sort of report development, and then report consumption. Typically, we're spending a lot of energy here, and maybe we're overspending time in development and not really focusing on getting good requirements. That's a whole separate topic. But there's not a lot of time spent on the report consumption side. So we have to think about like what happens here, right? You want to focus on this common trust issue that is people who look at it and say, where the heck did these numbers come from? Often because they have a general sense about what this should be. Oh, how many students do we have in the English department? How much does it cost to run a course or whatever? Or they've got their own analysis they've done in a spreadsheet or something else. And if things don't match up, they're gonna doubt it. Or even if it's an undesirable result, like, oh my gosh, our enrollment is dropping. That people tend to doubt things that don't make them happy. So what you need to do is to be able to support that information and to give them the information they need at that point in time. So part of the thing that causes lack of trust is inconsistent numbers, or you sort of get dueling data. If they have, as I just mentioned, two sort of separate reporting systems that are giving them different information. If they don't understand the data definitions, if I say, hey, we've got 100 students in this who are in the English department, and they're counting on, FTE by credit as opposed to actual unduplicated head count, or they're not, all sorts of things can impact that number. If they weren't involved in any way in the decision making, and they're critical as part of this process, or they don't see who was involved, like who know that there are people who governed it, that can undermine their trust. Having seen a bunch of failed projects can make it worse. You need to really justify, double your efforts to build that trust. Thoughts that are perceptions that there are data quality issues. There may be actual data quality issues. I think more often than not, there's a perception of data quality issues because it can tend to be more of a definition problem. But it doesn't really matter if it's real or not if people think the data quality has issues. Again, no transparency into how this report was generated, not good training, personal conflict, having no process for report changes or data quality resolution. So this is an important aspect to think about, is that if I am consuming the data, and these are things that happen to erode trust at the point of consumption, right? So I'm consuming the data, and I look at it and I say, this isn't really what I want, or this doesn't really answer my question, or I don't really understand it, or boy, it looks like those numbers must be wrong, there must be some problem with the data quality. Do I have a way to interact and request either fixes to that report or report a data quality issue? Like if I have no process for that, I have no empowerment to resolve it. And so having some sort of process, even what I call first step process, just someone to call or a way to report an issue, can go a long way to building trust. If there's no process, then I'll just wallow in my own frustration without actually getting the opportunity to fix it. The other thing that can cause this is no empowerment for follow-up questions. So if I'm seeing something, even if I trust it and believe it, but I'm seeing that the enrollment now is 1,500, and last year it was 1,550. I might say, well, is this a trend? Like where's our biggest loss, or what was it the previous year? And to better understand this question, I've got a bunch of follow-up questions. And we always say that a good report will generate more questions than it does answers. So you need a good process of generating, of allowing for follow-up questions to iterate quickly, or else you'll also undermine the usefulness of this. If people encounter that too often, I see this information, it's generated a bunch of questions, but I can't follow that up anyway, then it's going to undermine the use the next time. And then lastly, no accountability. So if there's any of these issues and I don't know who created it or how it was created or who approved it or anything, it can undermine trust.